What's going on, guys? So today I just figured it would be a fun video to actually go through my own LinkedIn and critique it. And so why not do that? Not every video has to be too serious, but I think this will be fun. So let's do it. What's going on, everyone? I had this idea just because I started business school and I feel like LinkedIn is such a big business school thing that I figured that I would critique my own LinkedIn. Like this past month, I actually went through and updated everything and I was like, oh my God, this is so cool. So I'm going to critique my own LinkedIn. Hopefully, if you're pre-med, this will give you a better insight into who I was as a person, get to know me a bit better, but also to give you some ideas for the activities you could be doing as a pre-med, the potential opportunities and career paths that exist. I do have my blazer on again, but this is this is just something I've been doing recently. I just feel like it makes me feel better. So with that, let's go ahead and get going. I'm just going to go through everything in my LinkedIn. If this inspires people about particular activities, feel free to ask me about those activities down below. If you find particular interest in something, let me know what you think about it. Or if you want to get more insight into any of these things, I'm more than happy to try to answer questions about them in future videos. So with that being said, you'll see here, I'm from Cupertino, California. I'm an MD-MBA candidate at Yale, and I also have this like 2-sentence snippet that's also really important in business school that all of you should get into the mindset of trying for yourself, right? This is the perfect answer to the question, tell me about yourself. And it probably will be useful in like med school interviews when you're making small talk, or let's say you run into a professor. Just give them a 2-minute pitch or two-sentence pitch. So you'll see that I'm a dual MD-MBA candidate between the Yale School of Medicine and Yale School of Management with a background in molecular biology from undergrad and public health. So those are my double majors. I'm super interested in entrepreneurship, healthcare management, and the intersection of health and technology. All right, and the next section is the featured section. I'm still new to LinkedIn, so I don't entirely know what to put here. I put a couple articles I was featured in. So most recently, I wrote a paper about Anki and efficient learning in medical school, and it was actually published in a pretty reputable medical journal. So I published that here because I thought it was really interesting. I also made a feature about my organic chemistry board game, which I'm super proud of and love talking about. And the other thing on here was for my Yale School of Management, there's an Instagram page, and I did like an Instagram takeover, and I was like really happy about that because I love social media, and I think social media has a very large prominence in terms of the ability to network. So I was able to get myself featured on there, and so I have that feature right here. This is some cool stuff that I don't entirely know is relevant, but feel free to check that out. Next up is the activity. So Dr. Jennifer Doudna recently won the Nobel Prize, so I made a little post about that and talked a bit about other stuff I'm interested in. But now let's get into the meat, which is my experience. So I actually was debating whether or not to include YouTube on my LinkedIn, but I felt like it's such a big part of who I am, and what I've done on YouTube has been a huge life-changing journey. And so I felt like it would be wrong to not. So I actually included a lot about my YouTube and also the things that I've done on there. Included some cool thumbnails that I'm pretty proud of. I feel like you can tell the life of a YouTuber based on their thumbnails. When you start, you're like, I have no idea how to make thumbnails. And then as you grow, you slowly learn and adjust. So I included some of my thumbnails that link to videos. I also have a podcast. So it's called Red, White, and Brown. It discusses the first generation Desi American experience. So Desi Americans are usually people from India, Pakistan, South Asia, generally speaking, who are first generation to America. And so I co-host that with one of my good friends, Sophia. This podcast is still growing, and we're really excited because we're hoping we can make a lot of strides on it this year. Next up in my activities, I actually did create an organic chemistry board game. I was the co-founder of this game, and it was Kickstarter funded. It made around $20,000 from crowdfunding. We were able to manufacture it, and to this day, it's still selling online at reactgame.com. So it's one of the biggest things I'm still proud of. Next up on my experiences is that Haven is the free clinic here at Yale, and I was actually one of the directors of the free clinic. It's a leadership role. And basically what I did there was make sure that these patients who were underinsured were able to get the care they needed through referrals. And specifically, those referrals would be things like neurology, dentistry, dermatology, whatever it was. Like, let's say they had a skin rash and they needed a dermatologist to look at it. That's kind of how Haven would work. And in my gap year, I was also an academic coach for for Cardinal Education. It's kind of a company in the Bay, as well as Kaplan. And I've done a bunch of stuff at UC Berkeley, where I was a teacher, a study group leader for biology, organic chemistry. So I did a lot of stuff there, as well as undergraduate research, where I was able to get a basic science publication and some more research here. So you'll see that I did a lot of research in undergrad, and one of the benefits of LinkedIn is that you can have all of this in one place, and you'll see that this really helps facilitate your understanding of what you've done. And at the very end of the day, it's a good way to keep track of, oh my God, look at how much I've grown. Like I used to do a lot of basic science research. I did more basic science research at Berkeley and even more basic science research. But you'll see that once I started medical school, which we're about to get into, I pivoted out of basic science and into more clinical medicine. So here you go. Here's my education, some of the scholarships I've gotten. Very grateful for all of that. My UC Berkeley education, the senior thesis I wrote. And again, one of the implicit benefits of all of this is that in one place you have literally everything you've ever done, which I found to be amazing. I'm like, holy cow, I would have forgotten half this stuff. And now thanks to LinkedIn, I'm going to have this lifelong timeline of just being able to track my education, what I majored in, the big things I was able to write, my senior thesis, high school experiences and whatnot. The next thing about LinkedIn that I am trying to take advantage of recently is these licenses and certifications. So for those of you who don't know, Coursera is like a really cool online platform for free classes. So you can take a bunch of classes on anything and everything. And those classes, once you finish them, they get added as certificates here on your LinkedIn, which I think is so cool because it gives you credibility. So most recently in business school, I actually took classes of probability, accounting, microeconomics, and linear programming. And so for all four of those, I took Coursera courses as well on the side. And what I'm hoping is I'm going to get certifications for their Coursera courses. And that means a lot more having that on my LinkedIn than just saying I've taken these classes, which I'm sure also means a lot. But I think these certifications are a really cool way to amp up your profile. And I just was like, cool, like it's just going to add more stuff to my LinkedIn. And I think it's going to be a great place to have everything that I really care about and was passionate enough to learn about. So yeah, I thought that was interesting, and I'm kind of attacking it that route. Next up is my volunteer experience. So I'm currently a volunteer at Haven, where I'm the main not clinician, but the main team director. And what I do there is I'm in charge of seeing patients as the senior medical student, and the junior medical student does the history and the physical, and I, as the senior medical student, write the note and also get the patient seen by the attending and make sure we're agreeing to what the plan is and how to work the patient up. Some other volunteer experiences include I co-founded a course at UC Berkeley that taught basic molecular biology to undergrads. You guys should definitely look into things like that. Like I remember whenever you have a problem, you can think about ways to address it. So for me, I remember going into research at Berkeley was so hard because I didn't know anything about molecular biology. I thought it was so hard and I had to learn everything myself. So moving forward, I was like, okay, I need to make something that will help fix this. So I created a course to teach undergrads about the basics of molecular biology, and the course is still going today. And last but not least, I also have PEACE, which is Peers Espousing Amiability, Cooperation, and Education. Another issue I had at Berkeley was there was way too much competition, way too much imposter syndrome. So what I did was, in my first 2 years, I was in a pretty bad place. So I created this organization so we could help students who may be in shoes that I found myself in and give them free tutoring, free advising, walk them through the ins and outs of UC Berkeley, and give them the means to make better decisions and not be affected as detrimentally as I was. Another good part about LinkedIn is you can list all of the publications. So I don't actually have 15 publications. I have significantly fewer. But what I also included in this section was different posters I wrote. Because poster presentations, in my eyes, are not necessarily publications, but also things that you want to remember you did, right? Because if you had something to present on a poster, it was significant enough and you had enough data to say, I have something that I want to share with the scientific community. And that's exactly what I have here. A lot of these are poster presentations, although this one is a publication. It's about COVID. But a lot of these things I wrote and I had posters for primarily because I wanted to make sure I could keep track of them. And so, yeah, you can definitely check those out. I highly encourage you to get involved in research. As you can tell by this section of my LinkedIn, when I got into medical school, I pivoted from basic science to clinical research, and that's why I have the way I have my publication structured here. I have a couple of awards that I wrote here, again, purely for my sake of remembering people I'm grateful for, the opportunities that I had. So going forward, I'm hoping that I can give back. I remember that I did get the UC Berkeley Alumni Scholarship, and one of my goals, hopefully when I have money, is to sponsor hopefully a couple students with that as well to kind of repay the favors that I have. And so that about sums up my LinkedIn. I think that's everything. And the whole gist of doing this was I kind of wanted to critique myself, talk about like, holy cow, I've grown a lot and I feel grateful for these opportunities. And to kind of show you that even as a pre-medical student, I think you could use LinkedIn to your benefit. And there are lots of connections I've made through this, including multiple opportunities, whatnot, that people reach out to you. So I encourage you all to try to amp up your LinkedIn, if not for the very least, just for the sake that you have everything you've ever done in one place, which I think is fascinating. It's an online virtual resume that to a certain extent will follow you for the rest of your life. And so with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, drop a like, comment, share, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.